23. Joanne, please start recording the meeting. We're going to take roll call. David Israel,
I am present.
Ed Grossman. He disappeared. Okay. Dominic Garnaja.
Here.
Stuart Richland.
Here.
I'm here. Patricia's absent. David Boaz.
Here.
Joanne Robinson.
Here.
Okay, and Donald is on his way. We have Olga Wilkenstein, Ruth Reese,
Kelly Jansen.
and Kelly.
Get rid of this dialogue box.
Okay, and Bobby Levin as guest. We have a quorum for the meeting. Officers, please review the minutes as presented. And if there's any corrections, let's, I'll give you a couple of minutes while we're waiting for Donald to return.
Joanne,
Yes.
I've got this weird laptop, some kind of military grade computer.
Oh,
How do I get rid of this dialogue box that says the meeting is being recorded?
It's got to be on his computer.
yeah, I don't see it, and it's not coming through on this side.
All right.
Is there a way to just X out of it or say,
Well,
No,
there's
yeah.
a got it, but, okay. I pressed got it. It went away.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
that's usually a good option.
When in doubt, read the instructions.
Rod, welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have any corrections to the minutes as presented?
No, I have none.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Agreed. Second.
Okay, motion made by Stuart to accept the minutes, seconded by David Boaz. Okay,
Thank you.
welcome everybody. President's report, what would you like to say?
I assume this is principally about Reflection Bay.
We have a couple of things on the agenda, yes.
Okay. Because see, I had a question, I guess, on Reflection Bay, principally for Rob.
Yes.
What if we say, look, guys, all this drama is very interesting. Find someplace else to put your water. We're not interested.
Well, you could do that. I've talked to Henry about that. He has not, I have not corroborated any of his statements, but they say they have an option on the east side of Century Village for an outflow to the Lake Worth Management District.
I mean, it's just a thought. I don't know what the opinion of the other officers is on this, but it just occurred to me that maybe it's not worth it. I mean, who would sneeze at $750,000? Probably should be twice that, but what if there was a consensus that just said, hey, find someplace else, build a bigger lake, get a permit, run a trench down Okeechobee Boulevard. Just a thought. All right, go ahead with your agenda, please.
Well, I was asking you for your report as president. If you had anything else to discuss besides that.
No, not really. I just would like to put this problem to bed. We've really been playing around with it for a long time. 10 years, actually, more like 12.
Actually, a little longer than that, Dave, but when we're on the agenda item, I'll give you a short history of where we started from and where we're at.
Okay, I can wait.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks. No, that's it for me at the moment.
Okay. All right, let's do the officers' report. Stuart, do you have anything?
The only thing I have is that I'm happy to be here. And some of the crowd is behind me. Nothing else.
Okay. Dominic?
No, I have nothing.
Okay. Since Donald made it, are you ready for your report or you need a few minutes?
I'm good. I gotta grab a pen.
Okay. Joanne, do you have anything for,
Only
The office-
to comment that we cut over our new phone system this week and we seem to be running on all cylinders and everything tested fine. And we're hoping that during this coming rainy season, we don't have a continuous outage of our guest entry system anymore. It's now totally fiber-based and things are running very well. So I'm happy with everyone's participation in that.
Bravo,
Thank you all.
bravo.
thank you for all your hard work.
Joanne, maybe you mentioned it. What's the status of the new phone system? Is it in?
Yes, that's what I was saying. It's all completely installed.
Oh, okay.
David, do you have Boaz?
Just that if there's any changes to the delegate assembly forms, they have to be here before 12 o'clock Wednesday,
Yesterday.
next Wednesday.
Oh, next Wednesday, yes, okay. Anything else?
That's everything.
All right.
Thank you.
Donald, you're up.
Morning, everyone. Two maintenance-related things. Next week, we're going to be painting or coating the roofs of the two guardhouses. So you may see some issues with traffic, but we've got that taken care of. And paving repairs will happen second week of June. That's pretty much all I have maintenance-wise. I do have a report to give to the officers in executive session at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
We lost our treasurer. All right. We'll go to Ruth, Yuko reporter.
Paper will be out on Saturday and Sunday. June issue.
That's it?
Sure.
Okay. Financially, the paper is well off for the first 4 months of 2023. We're ahead $2,280. That's all expenses being paid. That's what's left over. And we have Conviva and Cano Health that are going to be turned over to collection. Conviva has been owed us money for 1 year. They said that was not in their budget to pay. It took them a year to tell us that. So other than that, everybody's up to snuff. If anybody has any questions pertaining to contracts or finances, I'll be happy to answer them. Hearing none, we'll move on. The next thing on the agenda is the draft audit.
It looks like it did.
Yeah, I can, since Ed's not here, I can.
Well, he just came on, but I don't know.
All right, guys, so the draft audit came in day before yesterday. This doesn't become official until it's reviewed by our treasurer and signed off on, but it's in Z Drive if you want to read it. I provided you all with paper copies. If any of the unit owners would like a copy, you get that after Ed endorses it. Then it becomes a record of the condominium. But I thought, maybe you guys want to read it. And I have not read it yet. That's weekend reading. That's pretty much all I got on that. Ed, you have any?
Donald, it appears that the draft audit is in the database, and I did read it.
Good. Somebody did.
I did.
Seems like pretty standard boilerplate. What are the questions?
I don't expect to have any, Ed. Dave, I haven't read it myself yet. I don't believe our treasurer has read it yet. He needs a little time to
Okay,
look it over. But I thought I'd give you guys the draft, just so, if there's anything, this is the time to ask a question. And once
I
it's,
would just like to, for the sake of transparency, get the audit widest possible distribution as soon as possible.
absolutely, Dave. As soon as Ed endorses it and it becomes our actual our actual audit report. We'll get it out as a bulk email, put it on the blog, whatever it takes. And we'll have paper copies for whoever wants one.
Gotcha.
Ed, do you have any comments on the draft audit at this time? Ed, can you hear us? No, Ed. Okay, Fausto, we're good.
All right.
He's
Okay,
there,
so-
but no audio.
I'm going to skip ongoing business. Well, let me give you an update. We have a new bus schedule that was handed out as of Friday. We got it after 3:00. We made 60 copies. 20 were left here. 40 were brought to the clubhouse with the changes that were done to the routes east and west. There are still some changes that need to be done. Patricia, the chair, is away, but when she comes back next week, we will contact Omar to try to straighten out some of the issues that we're having. I have not been contacted by anybody saying that there's major problems with the schedules, but I believe that there's some fine tuning will be needed to make the schedule work. It is going in the paper. It will be in print so that everybody can see what it is. And these schedules that are the correct schedules say May 2023 on the top. The reason why we did that is so that everybody knows that that's the latest schedule that we have. Because we make thousands of schedules and people walking around, plus the bus company was supposedly putting them on the buses. And I don't know if they were the last that was issued on Friday. So all the officers, 2023, May 20 is the last bus schedule that we got. I'm going to save the rest of my comments for later on. I guess, Rod, we'll talk to you at this point.
That would be fine. Yeah, just a short history, as I told Dave, of where we're at now and how we got there. The canal and drainage system in Century Village is a complex system. As you know, Century Village is a very large community. It was built and designed in the late 60s and early 70s, been operating ever since. It really first came to our UCO's attention and to my attention in 1999, March of 1999. At that time, we retained a well-known engineering firm called G & Jensen and asked them to do an extensive study on our drainage system and also in terms of its safety and whether or not we were going to have potential flooding in major storms or hurricanes and things of that nature. They conducted that study, a detailed study, I might add, and found that the dam and the weir system that basically is the only outflow from our drainage system into the canals of the Lake Worth Drainage District at Okeechobee Boulevard. And they found that structure was in critical disrepair. And they recommended that it be replaced completely. And at which point we go to, UCO goes to WPRM and says, look, who owns this system? You know, it's all over the place. We got people in the commercial areas draining into it, et cetera, et cetera. And WPRM's position was, well, we don't own it and we're not going to take care of it. This is up to the citizens and the residents of Century Village. And that posed a problem because at this time, UCO is saying, well, how are we going to manage the system and how are we going to pay for the maintenance of this system? So we entered into negotiations with WPRF and we cut a deal in November of 1999. The deal was WPRF will spend up to $100,000 to replace the weir and dam system. And at that point, the whole system will be turned over to UCO, and UCO will have the maintenance, operational, and funding responsibility for the entire drainage system in Century Village. And UCO agreed to that. We signed the what we call the Water Management Agreement in November of 1999. WPRF did, in fact, replace the weir system. And we took over the whole kit and caboodle. The problem was it was an unfunded mandate. Here we are taking on this huge responsibility. I mean, infrastructure and drainage in a community this large, when the infrastructure is 40 or 50 years old, is a big responsibility. And so here we take on an unfunded mandate. So the question became, well, how are we going to fund this thing? As you know, UCO is not a condominium association. We can't go out and do a special assessment. We had to find another source of funding. So at the same time, at the end of 1999, we were doing the Millennium UCO model documents, if you remember that. And what we put in there in Exhibit B as an amendments to the declaration of all 309 associations was a provision declaring maintenance management of the entire stormwater drainage system in Century Village would become a common expense of all 309 associations. And as such, the residents would be responsible in their budgets of their respective associations to pay for all the maintenance, management, and operation of the entire drainage system in Century Village. And as you know, all the associations passed the Millennium Amendments, and they're now part of their condominium documents. So beginning in 2000, UCO now has the responsibility of management and operation and funding of the drainage system, but we now have a funding source. That is the 7,854 unit owners in Century Village will be paying for this. And this goes on for a long time until we get to 2017. And at that time, Mr. Waldman was running Reflection Bay, which was the old golf course. And Mr. Waldman was going to develop that project and needed an outflow for his drainage system, which was the old golf course, which, by the way, the old golf course had been draining into our system since day one. But he would need a special drainage easement to do this with his new project in the old golf course. So he comes to us with this proposal in August of 2017 to allow him to drain into our system. And our first question was, well, will this work from an engineering standpoint? So we retained a professional engineer by the name of Jordan Nichols, who was a drainage expert. And Jordan came in and did a study on what the impact would be if the development on the old golf course continued and actually drained into our system. At that time, the projected project was 7.16 acres of retention ponds, which, by the way, is much less than the current Coulter project, which is 12.61 acres of retention ponds. And Mr. Jordan did a study and said, even on a 100-year severe storm probability, that the Century Village system had plenty of capacity for drainage off the old golf course, even with development. And he issued a detailed written report, and we accepted that and said, okay. And from there, we tried to negotiate with Waldman on what we were going to do with this drainage easement that they needed. And they offered money. They offered us $200,000 in writing. We rejected that. They had a very complicated documentation of escrow agreements. And make a long story short, it just fell apart in terms of the negotiations. But the only written offer on money in that was $200,000. So that didn't go anywhere, and it lay dormant until recently, when Coulter came to us this year with a proposal, again, for a development of the old golf course of 621 townhomes. Their retention ponds would be 12.61 acres of lakes, which was greater than Walden's proposal, which is good because that means they have more storage capacity and less runoff into our system. And we began to negotiate. And we went through I think at least 5 or 6 drafts of their contract. And we went back and forth. And finally, on this last version 5, I think it was, they actually finally conceded to everything we demanded, which was, of course, we want to renovate the South Canal because that's our obligation under the Millennium Agreement. We took on that responsibility, no matter what it costs, to renovate the South Canal. And we retained a firm of Simmons and White. Kyle Duncan is the engineer involved in that. I talked with him this morning. He confirmed with me that he believes it's around $1 million to renovate the South Canal. However, he says 1.5 is plenty of room, plenty of reserve to do that. And we have a commitment from Coulter to fund half of that, $750,000. We fund the other half. So we have a total projected budget of $1.5 million, fully funded, to renovate the entire South Canal system and get it ready for what it needs to be done. That means that at least half of that will not be assessed against our unit owners. Their half is $750,000. And so that we save for our unit owners that will not have to pass on to them to pay for this. Now, infrastructure is important. I know infrastructure, drainage and dams and weirs is not very sexy, but it's real important. It's real important. I call it money in the ground. It's an insurance because if you don't have an active drainage system that can withstand all these abnormal weather systems that we have seen recently, not to mention hurricanes, we can have some pretty bad things happen inside Century Village. So we have to take care of business and maintain this infrastructure. It is our obligation by contract and by law to do so, and it is our obligation by law to fund it ourselves unless we have an outside source, such as what's being proposed by Coulter. So after going through all these drafts, I wrote an opinion to Donald, I think he distributed it to you, that we have now completed what all the legal demands we have made on the terms of this contract. The legal issues are resolved, in my opinion. What's left is the policy decision. Do we want to do this? What do we recommend to the delegate assembly on what we should do with this? Because the delegate assembly is always the final arbiter of a major expenditure and contract. And so it's open for policy debate. As Dave says, what if we walked away? Well, we can walk away, but the $750,000 is real money. But we can do that. It's your decision. Well, actually, it's the delegate assembly's decision, but it's your recommendation that you're going to be sending to the delegate assembly. So, Dave, we can open it up for discussion.
Rod, you left one important section out of that. The title. There's property that was left out of your presentation.
I'm sorry, I did leave it out. My apology. In the contract, which we demanded, is that the title to the dam, weir, and 500 feet of canal from Okeechobee down to the South Canal. We don't have title to that. WPRF in the 1999 agreement was supposed to get us title. They did not. I do not know why, but they didn't, and they refused to do it now. So we're going to have to do what we call an action to quiet title. And that means we go into court, we ask the judge, here are the potential people that may have a claim on this property, which nobody wants. So I don't see that's going to be an issue. But then the court would order us that we have title to the dam and weir system. And that's important. Under this contract, Coulter will do it for free. We would not have to pay for that. They would go into court and ask the judge to issue a quiet title, and we would have title, UCA would have title to these properties, which is essential. We need to have that done. That's part of the deal. And that's what we negotiated in this last draft. So that's where we stand.
David has a,
The only piece I'm missing, there's about 14 acres of land between Greenbrier and Southampton. I thought that they were going to put in a great big lake,
they are.
maybe a 12-acre lake there, to try to alleviate some of the drainage issues.
That is in their proposal, David. And that means they're only asking us to dump what is it, Donald, 4.81 cubic feet of water?
Per second.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
per second. That may seem like a lot of water, but for the size of Century Village, that's not near what's being poured into our system right now.
Basically, this is a pressure relief valve. They fully expect to store all of their rainwater on their property, except when the storm that Noah went through comes and they're looking for, this is a pressure relief valve. It's a just in case for them.
It is required by Palm Beach County under their drainage code.
Correct.
David Boaz has a question.
Rod, are they still including the yearly maintenance with the new homeowners association?
Yes, again, my apology. I should have mentioned this. And this is a big deal. They've agreed that the new 621 unit townhomes will have our own homeowners association. And that homeowners association will be created by the developer, and a declaration of restrictions will be filed for that. They have agreed that in that declaration of restrictions, that the HOA and the 621 townhome unit owners will contribute 15% of a reserve account to maintain the South Canal, the weirs and the dams in perpetuity. And so we will be setting up not an escrow account, a reserve account. We'll be paying 85%, they'll be paying 15%. And that will go on, and every month they will put their share into this reserve account. So 30 years from now, we won't have to assess another $1 million to renovate the system. I did a quick present value calculation of that. You guys can check my math, but if you do a present value calculation, that has an economic worth to us on their 15% share today of about $90,000. So that is another continuing source of income we will have to maintain the South Canal system well into the future. And that's part of the deal.
Rod, are we solid on the 30 years as a useful service life for the canal once it's been dredged and regraded?
That's a pretty much standard, but our engineers, Kyle, are going to do a study on that to make sure that's correct.
Right. Okay.
Richard, you got your hand up.
Yes, a question for Mr. Lawyer Tennyson. $90,000 is 15% of the maintenance. Does that mean that we, Century Village, are responsible for about $600,000 a year for maintenance for the 85%?
No, that's not per year. We're talking about a 30-year
30-year life
amortization. So it would be much
Okay.
less. I think the monthly total months money coming into the reserve account each month would be about $2,700. We would pay 85% of that. They would pay 15%.
I'll go Walkenstein.
Wow.
I'll go Walkenstein.
Trying to call you.
Trying to call you.
I don't know.
He doesn't seem to be here.
Phone with me. Forget about that. Let's go on. Okay.
I don't know whether this is immediately relevant. You know, a lot of people whose names we don't even know are draining into that canal. And I don't know if there's much you can do about it. We had a big go-around years back. George Lowenstein was involved. A company right next door, as you come off Community Drive, told us in effect to go stuff it. But I don't see how you're going to be able to have any real effect on all these players who are draining into that canal. The only one that was honest with us was the fire department. And I think they gave us a few dollars, maybe 50K way back, for drainage rights. Have you any thoughts on that, or should we just kind of let that go?
Yeah, we looked at that, Dave, for many years, but those property owners were arguing that for 30, 40 years, the Levy family was allowing them to dump their wastewater into the South Canal.
Right.
And therefore, they said they had a prescriptive easement right to do so. I'm not sure that's worth trying to litigate them on that
Okay.
one. I think we're just stuck
Fair
with it.
enough.
Uh,
Let's
Rodney-
sleeping dogs lie.
My question is, Rod, legally, if we don't own the land, how can we enter an agreement giving somebody the rights to do something with that land?
That's why the title has to be quieted.
That's why
well,
I'm
that's-
saying.
Yeah, that's a
before we
good
have-
question. Let me respond. They are going to, that's the reason the Coulter, the developer, wants their lawyers to do the action to quiet title. Because that way they're assured they're going to give us good title so that they in turn, their easement is a good title. And that's why they're insisting on doing it, and it doesn't cost us a dime. They're covering the whole expense to do it.
Suppose they
Yeah,
take a shortcut and we found
I
out
think
afterwards.
Counselor raises a point. Henry the Weasel doesn't do anything for other people's benefit. And I think that has to be watched very closely.
Oh,
I don't want to wake up one morning and find that Coulter Land owns our weir.
no, Dave, I'm gonna be inside the lawsuit, okay? So I'll be monitoring every step of the way.
Okay,
And if I see something going wrong, I'll just step in and set a hearing in the court and say,
all right.
Well, my question is, why shouldn't we be doing this on our own to make sure that it's done correctly the first time and not let somebody else try to handle it and maybe take a shortcut that we may have a problem somewhere down the road?
well, the reason being is if we did an action to quiet title, we wouldn't necessarily have to buy title insurance because we're not conveying the property. However, under Palm Beach County's codes and the drainage code, they have to show in their drainage easement that they have a title insurance policy covering their drainage easement. And the only way they can obtain that is if they do the action to quiet title themselves.
Even though they don't own the property?
Even though they don't own the property, they will be acting on our behalf. As I will be there, okay, to watch them.
Right.
They will be acting on our behalf, asking the court to give UCO title to the property.
But shouldn't we be the one holding the title insurance, not them? Since the property belongs to us.
I mean, we can
I'm
buy a
asking-
title insurance policy if we want, but we're not mandated to do that. The key thing is that UCO will have title to the property, and it will be insurable title so that they can meet the criteria they need with Palm Beach County on their easement. If we ourselves want to buy the same title policy as an owner's policy, we can do that.
All right, I put that on my list, Rod. I'm gonna call Tony and ask, it won't cost very much, let's put it that way. So we can do that.
Yeah.
But doesn't the title company, you have to pay the title company to give you that insurance?
Yeah,
That's right. But as an owner's policy, when they've already paid the premium for their easement right policy, it is not an expensive title policy.
Okay.
any other questions, guys?
One question.
Go ahead, David Boaz.
Hi,
Brian,
Dave.
hi, when they do if we decide to let them do the quiet title, is this coming out of the $750,000? Or is
No.
this a freebie?
It is a total freebie. I made sure the contract was very specific on that.
Thank you.
Olga, you had a question. Go ahead, Olga.
Before UCO became responsible, when Century Village was built, Was WPRF responsible for this?
There was no.
The maintenance, the whole,
There was no WPRF. That didn't exist at the time.
Yeah.
The Levy organization took care of it.
believe me, organ, who basically was responsible for?
And it's a
before you
very,
took over?
yeah, it's a very good question. In 1999, I did an extensive title review of all the canals. And I wrote a long report. And it was a mishmash of people who thought they owned this. The bottom line is when, who's going to step up to bat and say, I'm responsible, I'm going to maintain this system to make sure it's safe for the residents of Century Village. The only one that came to bat was UCO. Nobody else wanted anything to do with it.
Were they talked into taking responsibility?
$3 million.
If no one took responsibility, what would have happened? Would Levy have to have been responsible?
Nope. And that's what we were looking at in 1999. Can we legally impose this responsibility on any entity, whether it be Levy or any of its corporations or what have you? And we came up with a big zero.
I give up. I give up.
You asked the question.
I give up. Anybody else?
What do you say, guys? Any other questions?
There are some reports around, Rod, by maybe the Lake Worth Drainage District and the South Florida Water Management District, laying a lot of responsibility for that on us. And I guess I would agree with Olga. Well, where did we get so lucky?
Yeah, well, Dave, I wish I had the magic wand. Believe me, I put a lot of time in this in 1999 trying to come up with who is legally responsible.
Right.
Now, one thing that they kept arguing back and forth from the water management districts is that in a modern subdivision, all drainage under a master declaration is the responsibility of the association. And they kept coming back and saying, well, you didn't have a master declaration, but you have UCO. And I said, well, that's not the same thing, but I could not convince them of that.
And I will point out, I'm sure that some of you will remember Hurricane Isaac. There was so much water, it was bubbling back up through the manhole covers because the county failed to open gates downstream from us over which we had no control. A mere bit of flood control history.
Yeah, you're right, Dave. We don't have any control over the water management districts. We're going to have to rely on them. They tell us, though, we want your canals to flow evenly. We want them well maintained.
Right.
And that's what this is about that we're dealing with today.
Right, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I'm gonna ask for your honest legal opinion. Are we better off to do this on our own or let them do it?
I think
Let Coulter do it.
I have no equivocation about saying this is a good deal. We should take it.
Okay. Anything?
The bottom line, it appears to me that in the past we've been screwed and now we don't have a choice. Am I on the right?
No, you still have a choice.
That's-
Have a choice. And we have to bring this up to the delegates for their final vote, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Doesn't matter what the office is or what executive board, it goes to the delegates. And
You-
their
you are-
vote counts.
Yeah, you give your recommendation to the delegates.
Okay.
Exactly.
That answer your question?
Yes, it does.
All right, there you go.
I would be careful about what it is you're taking to the delegates. And work with Rod for some reasonable wording that people are going to be able to understand.
Well,
Right? What is it we're taking to the delegates? And again, I think it comes back to my original thought. Find some other way of getting rid of your water. It will be much more expensive for them. We'll give up the $750K but is it really worth it? Is this something we really need to be involved in? There are other ways of getting rid of that water.
Donald had something to say. Go ahead, Donald.
All right, guys, as you know, we're going to be bringing this question and the contract to the delegate assembly, but with less than a week's notice. I don't like the idea of handing a contract. And how many times have we done that where people are going, what the hell am I voting on here? How does the officers feel about giving it out, having a presentation and giving them some time to think about it?
I think what David said, having Rod give his personal opinion, saying what he thinks of the contract would be helpful to them.
Okay.
I'd be
You
glad to do
agree?
that.
And Ron, we could zoom you into that theater as well. I could,
Yeah, when is it going to the delegate assembly? What date?
next Friday.
June 2nd.
Too soon.
Okay, there may be some scheduling problem there. I'm supposed to be on the road then, but I'll work with Donald to see what we can do.
Yeah.
To do that.
You'll look like Big Brother up on a giant screen.
If
Yeah.
you're
It'll be
doing
something.
something in the
David's-
delegate assembly, get with Laurent well in advance to make sure the tech details are set up.
Understood.
It's a non-trivial event.
Nope.
Hey, what time would the meeting be, Donald?
It would be 9:30 on a Friday morning.
9:30? Okay.
June 2nd.
David Boaz.
I really think the next delegate assembly meeting is way too soon to bring this up. I think we should have at least another 30 days to decide on this.
Well, I thought that's what Donald was suggesting, that we would provide all of the contractual information at
Sure.
the next delegate assembly.
And
That's 6 days away.
yeah, but we can hand out a stack of paper 6 days from now.
You're gonna vote on it?
No,
No, the
No.
delegates need,
I stand corrected.
For information.
Admit my mistakes.
also, you got to give the delegates time to bring it back to their boards. The boards, I mean, they're supposed to be, doing the bidding of their board. Maybe the boards want to get legal opinion. I think 30 days is appropriate.
I do too.
Question.
go ahead, Dominic.
This whole thing appears to me that we do no longer have a choice in the matter.
Why do you think that, Olga?
The reason I think about it, if we do nothing, we lose out because we have full responsibility.
We'll,
So therefore, we don't have a choice. We have to accept this.
Olga, let me give you this from my point of view as a manager who's sort of kind of in charge of this thing. What I get out of this agreement is I know that the South Canal is now going to be dredged, and I'm a little worried about it. This is something that's on my mind. Once we get the South Canal dredged, almost certainly we're going to have to do the North Canal, which also is even worse shape because of the people that live there are going to say, here's one here. What am I, chopped liver? So from my point of view, it gets the ball rolling on an infrastructure project that's long overdue.
What's causing all of this stuff?
Who's talking?
go ahead, Richard, go ahead.
As I understand it, even if we got Coulter to drain through some other means, the South Canal would still need extensive renovation.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we gain by, they will do the legal work and contribute half. Even though more water will be coming through the South Canal, in the end, we will gain. That's it.
All right.
I think you're right, Richard.
Okay. Take a
Listen,
vote.
guys,
That's it.
this doesn't end with a vote here, right? What's the point?
No,
Okay.
yeah,
A little,
go ahead.
a little stupid question. What is the impact on the lake drainage district with all the additional water coming into us and going out onto Okeechobee?
Well, Dom, I think the answer to that is Lake Worth Drainage District has to essentially approve this project. So-
There's gonna be a big impact.
They're going to, if they haven't done it already, determine what their impact is and either, I expect its approval.
Yeah, because the majority of the water that falls on the golf course is going into the
Right.
ground.
And think how many times in a year we give water to Lake Worth Drainage District. If it's 10 times in a year, when we have a significant rainfall, right? When we go, that's the days I see the water going over the stationary weir. So, that's kind of on them.
Donald, I'd add to that, in 2000, when WPRF rebuilt the weir and dam, they had to go through the Water Management District for approval. And they did 100-year storm calculations and still approved it. So I expect they'll certainly approve this project.
If they haven't already.
If they haven't already, right? I don't know.
Kelly, you have any questions?
Nope.
All right, guys, we want to move on or do,
Yeah, and does anybody else have any questions on this matter?
I don't have any questions. I just agree with Dave that the package should be presented to
that's what.
the delegate assembly, let them have 30 days to turn it over and contact their lawyers or whatever. And then they can make a decision based on what we provide, what our lawyer provides, and then we move on from there.
Yeah.
The only thing I want to bring to the table, that July and June, July and August are the weakest months for delegate assembly attendance. So does it pay to kick it to July and,
But
or
it's,
should we make it?
I know, but it's to expedite it. We can get kicked in the pants by saying, why did you rush it
Why did
through?
you-
I'd rather not have that.
You could also hear, why did you hang on to this? Why didn't you give it to me when you had it? It could go either way. I don't think
believe
there's any harm in getting paper into
No,
delegates.
I mean, I'm agreeing with putting it out and not calling for any vote in June, but doing it in July. Which is basically the consensus that we have.
Absolutely.
So we could all answer questions and everything, the paperwork would be in everybody's hands that are care
Yeah.
for an entire month.
What's the rush?
Right.
Okay.
We all agree with that?
They're not gonna
Okay.
spend for a year anyways.
All right.
All right, Rod, we're about to go into executive session. Can I ask that you just sit in for a few minutes?
Yeah, do you want me to sign off or just sit with you?
No, we want you in. Wait a minute.
Okay.
For any other new business?
No, not per se.
I already asked that question.
I did.
About it here.
Yeah. Is there any other new
Are we,
business?
excuse me, Donald, are we gonna
Yeah.
take a vote of the officers committee and their recommendation?
It's up to the officers. What do you want to do?
Up or down?
Do you want to,
I think you're going to have
I
another.
think you
round.
have to under your bylaws. I think the.
Yeah, but Rod, there's going to be, we're going to give out the contract
Mhm.
next Friday. There's going to be an officers meeting in between that
Yeah.
delegate assembly and the next one. So these officers will have an opportunity to make a recommendation.
I
Okay.
think we should take a vote at next officers meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
This way, the officers will have the same amount of time as the delegates to chew on the presentation.
Right, you guys got to go back to your boards too,
Right, of course.
right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's just see if anybody else has any.
Does anybody else have any other business before?
I had,
Yes, go
I came
ahead.
here with an idea,
Yes.
of throwing it out to you. But after hearing this, I don't want to bring it up at this point because you guys have a full plate with this issue, which is very important.
And then
at this
some.
time. Okay,
All right.
so that's it.
Okay. Bob, you got anything?
No.
All right.
Ruth, anything but the paper?
Okay, so I'm just going to ask the officers to stay. Everybody else, thank you.
We come back to the bus contract.
Well, forget about it. I'll just take it off the table.
Thank you, everyone. Let me open the door for you.
I close up. Goodbye. Goodbye, Joey, and goodbye, Fausto.
Bye.
Bye, Guy. Goodbye, Dominique. Yeah.
Over this bus contract problem?
I'm going to table it for now.
Okay,
I was going to make a suggestion that we have our CAM send out RFPs to other bus companies to be ready in case we can't make the current contract work for us.
Okay.
But I'll wait another month.
I got